Hey there, dog lovers. It's Zach from the Pampered Pup. Today I'm going to do a comparison of PetPlate versus Spot and Tango's fresh dog food recipes. One of these brands is a little bit less known amongst dog owners, whereas the other one was blasted into the stratosphere by their appearance on Shark Tank. And I'm going to go through everything I learned during my first-hand experiences with these fresh dog foods. I'm going to compare them in quality, and that is how they look, how they smell, and how they taste. And yes, I tried them both. And I'll talk about how convenient these companies are for pet owners when it comes to managing your subscriptions, shipping, packaging, and finally I'll go over how these companies stack up in terms of cost. And I've done the calculation to make sure that we're comparing them on an apples-to-apples basis. So hopefully by the end of this video I'll have answered every question a dog owner might have when they're choosing one of these fresh dog foods for their pup. But if you're just looking for a quick answer here before we dive into the details, I would say that Spot and Tango is probably the better choice for your dog. That said, PetPlate does have a lot of variety to offer in their recipes, and their price is about as low as it can get. Although I think if price is your biggest motivating factor, you should probably check out Nom Nom. They make great tasting dog food at an excellent price as well. Where Spot and Tango really shines is in the quality of their ingredients and their above average serving of protein in the food. And if the quality of your dog's food is most important to you, then Spot and Tango is where it's at. If you end up choosing PetPlate or Spot and Tango for your pup, make sure to use my links in the description of this video to get the best deal that I currently have my hands on. Now let's dive into the meat of this fresh dog food comparison and see how PetPlate and Spot and Tango stack up in terms of quality. So the first thing I look at when assessing a fresh dog food in terms of quality is its appearance. How does it look? Is it appealing? Is it something I'd want to eat? I'll say that both of these recipes look pretty good visually. What's notable about PetPlate is that they have really nice large chunks of vegetables, particularly green beans and peas stood out in my mind. Although the meats in PetPlate's recipes were definitely ground in most cases very finely, almost to a paste. With the exception of the pork recipe, it had some nice chunks of meat in there. Where Spot and Tango stood out was that each of the recipes had really vibrant colors. Whether it was the bright green peas or the deep greens of the spinach, the vegetables looked really fresh. And with the addition of grains like red quinoa, these recipes really popped. I would have liked to see larger chunks of the ingredients with Spot and Tango, but they were there. There were whole peas and chunks of the vegetables. The meats were definitely either shredded or ground as well, so it was a bit more broken down than I would have liked, but it wasn't quite a paste like you see with PetPlate or other fresh dog foods. And what I noticed was the food from Spot and Tango was really quite firm and it stood up. It wasn't really like a sloppy mess like a lot of the other foods out there. So at the end of the day, while the recipes from both PetPlate and Spot and Tango looked pretty good, I'd say Spot and Tango had the upper hand in terms of appearance. And when assessing the smells of these recipes, I'd say that there wasn't a huge difference between PetPlate and Spot and Tango. Both of them had appealing, pleasant aromas. You could pick out the ingredients that comprise the different recipes. They smelled fairly fresh, fairly appetizing. There were no notable off flavors, no herb flavors or anything like that. It's hard to pick a clear winner in terms of smell, but they were both okay. And then came the time to taste these recipes. And typically when I'm comparing two types of fresh dog food, I like to taste them again side by side so I can really make a sound judgment on how the flavors compare to each other. However, I would say that unfortunately the flavors with all of PetPlate's recipes were a bit strong and it led to me not really wanting to taste it again. That said, despite the strong flavors, the textures of PetPlate's food were really pleasant and really appetizing. Chewing through those nice big chunks of ingredients definitely elevated the eating experience. And despite those strong flavors, I would say it wasn't the worst fresh dog food that I've eaten, that's for sure. My best guess is that these strong flavors come from the inclusion of organ meat, and I think they probably just use a little too much. I tend to enjoy human foods containing organ meat when I'm off the clock, and I've also tasted other fresh dog foods with organ meat that were quite pleasant to eat as well. Spot and Tango's recipes, on the other hand, were clean and had complex flavors. There was really a lot of depth to them. You could taste all the vegetables, all the grains, the meat. It really had a lot of character, and it was definitely a pleasant eating experience. The texture with Spot and Tango's recipes was also great. The vegetables had a nice freshness to them, the grains gave it a nice chew. Definitely a pleasant experience, and the cranberries gave a really nice contrast. I will say that the lamb recipe was really strong on the gamey flavor of the lamb. I like lamb, but that's definitely a flavor I try to subdue when I'm cooking it. And I would say in the case of that particular recipe, the flavor was tolerable at best. So you might want to hold off from giving that one from your dog, but that's up to you. Overall, I'd say Spot and Tango definitely wins in terms of taste. So just a few more things to note. The PetPlate offers 6 recipes, whereas Spot and Tango offers 3. PetPlate is kind of a standout amongst fresh dog food brands. They have a pretty deep product line. Recipes from both of these companies are nutritionally complete and balanced to meet AAFCO standards. PetPlate's recipes are formulated by board-certified veterinary nutritionists, and Spot and Tango's recipes are formulated by a PhD in veterinary nutrition. Both of these companies cook their food in USDA kitchens, so they're using the same safety standards as used with human food. And PetPlate notes particularly that they use human-grade ingredients in their recipes, while Spot and Tango notes that their foods are GMO and hormone-free. In terms of nutrition, really the biggest thing I look at is the protein content. While PetPlate hovers pretty much at the industry standard with around 8 to 11% protein as fed in their recipes, Spot and Tango is on the high side. Their recipes have 12 to 14% protein as fed. There's only one other company I've tried that makes food with that much protein in it, and that's a pup above. And I think Spot and Tango is a bit of a better deal than them. So in terms of nutrition, I would say that Spot and Tango has the upper hand there. So then in terms of convenience to the pet owner, both of these companies do require that you have a subscription in order to purchase their fresh dog food for your pup. And that's the case for most fresh dog food brands out there, with the pup above being the only exception that I've tried. And just like all those other fresh dog food brands, it's really easy to cancel your subscription with both PetPlate and Spot and Tango. You can do it all from your account dashboard on their website. There's no need to pick up the phone and call anyone, anything like that. And after a few clicks, your subscription's canceled. No more shipments, no more bills. In terms of shipping, Spot and Tango was definitely faster in my experience. For PetPlate, I placed my order on a Sunday night and it came 2 Tuesdays after that, so it was a full 6 business days between placing the order and receiving the package. On the other hand, with Spot and Tango, I placed my order on the same Sunday night and I received the package on the following Thursday, so it was only 3 business days between placing my order and actually receiving it. Both of these companies pack their shipments really well on dry ice, so the food's nice and frozen when it gets to you. And both of these companies use shipping materials and insulation that's fully recyclable, so there's no need to dissolve any cellulose packaging and rinse it down your sink. You can just put it all in your recycling bin, which I think is great. In terms of how the food itself is packaged, these two companies were amongst my favorites in how they presented it. PetPlate ships their food in plastic tubs. It's nice that it has the ingredients and nutritional information written right on there. Each tub contains 12 ounces of food, or 340 grams, which I think is a nice amount of food to thaw at one time. It means you're less likely to thaw more than you need at any given time. Spot and Tango sent me half-pound frozen patties, or about 230 grams, which was also a nice size. They vacuum seal their food in a plastic wrapper, and it has a nice easy peel top on it, so there's no need to bust out any scissors or anything. When it comes time to serve, you just defrost them in your fridge overnight, and with PetPlate they say it should be consumed within a week after thawing, whereas with Spot and Tango they say you only have 4 days after thawing, so something to keep in mind there. And no comparison would be complete without discussing how these companies stack up in terms of cost. I like to evaluate fresh dog food prices on a dollars per pound basis. When they give you that dollars per day or dollars per week estimate, they're not accounting for the fact that different brands will give you different amounts of food, because they calculate your dog's nutritional requirements all differently. So to keep things fair, I go with dollars per pound, and according to my calculations, PetPlate comes in at about $4 per pound, which is about as cheap as it gets. The only other one that comes in that cheap is Nom Nom, and I think they're actually a better deal when it comes to the quality of the dog food. Spot and Tango comes in at about $9 per pound, so it's really on the expensive side. But the food quality and the high protein content may just make up for it. You might want to also check out the Farmer's Dog for great food in this price range. And remember, if you do choose PetPlate or Spot and Tango, make sure to use my links in the description of this video to get the best deal that I'm currently aware of. Thanks for watching, and I hope this helps you find a delicious fresh dog food for your pup.